Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have a special guest with me, director and composer Emiko Carlin. Hi, Emiko. How are you?
I'm very well, Tiffany. How are you doing?
I'm doing so good, and it's so funny. I'm still laughing about the fact that we both live in Vegas. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get over that. So
No.
for you guys that didn't see off camera, we found out that we literally live in the same, same city, basically.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that until just now. So I was like, yeah, we could have did this in person, but that's fine. I'm still glad to have you on.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so you have a documentary called The Human Side, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I actually just recently watched it and I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
And just to start off, I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about, who you are and what you do, and then how you got involved in this project.
Well, by trade, I'm a recording artist, actually. And I'm actually up here right now in Vegas cutting demo tracks for my new album, believe it or not, having nothing to do with filmmaking at all, but just that's a separate aside. And I I think it was in 2018, I came off my last national tour and I was sort of at a loose end for things to do because my next big project wasn't starting for a while. And so a friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, there's this sort of like pickup gig that I think you'd be really good for. It's video hosting, like on camera hosting for this hi-fi audio trade show." And I said, "Hold up, back up. First of all, what's a hi-fi audio trade show? Let's start there." Right.
Hmm.
And he explained to me, he said, "Oh, it's this, it's like a convention for audiophiles who love really high-end, bespoke stereo systems, home entertainment systems, vinyl, vintage, like all this crazy, crazy stuff. But it's not your usual two speakers and a source type of a thing. They speakers on a marble and gold. I mean, crazy, crazy things. And they need somebody to go around and I guess interview the exhibitors, right? The people that are showcasing their stuff." And I went, "I can do that. Sure." Whatever. Yeah, okay. Sounds good. It's a couple month commitment. Yeah, okay. That's great. Perfect. Um, and so I went to this thing not really knowing what to expect, not also really knowing what kind of questions to ask, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'd done some research and I have considered myself, because I come from the music creation side of things, I considered myself quite adept when it comes to sound reproduction and mixing and mastering and things like that. And so I thought, oh, well, these folks will know exactly what I'm into, right? There's a common bond. There was no common bond. I'm just going to
Oh.
tell you that zero common bond, which is consequently why the documentary started to get made. So I was there hosting. It was like my first day, and I was going from sort of exhibit room to exhibit room, and out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy who's constantly about 10 to 15 steps behind me, no matter where I am. And he's not on our camera crew. He doesn't work for the home entertainment show. I don't know. Maybe he's just going to the same rooms that I'm going to. I don't know. And then he gets closer and closer, and like each room that I'm in, he gets closer and closer. And I'm sort of like, this
You like
creeping me out a
security?
little bit. Yeah, I was sort of like,
Yeah.
personal space, please. So
Yeah.
I made a beeline for the lounge, and I thought, all right, if he follows me into the lounge, then I know something's up, right? And I'll just call somebody or whatever. So I went into the lounge, sat in the furthest corner table all by myself, away from people, to signal like, hey, personal space, force field. And he came right up to me and he said, "Hi." And I said, "Hello." Uh, and he introduced himself, and he proceeded to explain to me the reason that he had been sort of trying to catch up to me was because he and two of his very, very dear friends wanted to start a podcast about how hi-fi and audio have not only changed their lives and their friendship, but also saved their lives. And I sort of went, huh? And he explained to me, he started talking to me about these stories. One of his best friends was one of the last guys to ever photograph Jimi Hendrix alive. And then another one of his buddies, who speaks openly about this in the film. So it's, I'm not disclosing anything that people don't already know, but had unfortunately a very bad substance abuse problem and almost lost his life. And through hi-fi and getting into memorabilia collecting and things like that, his life was saved. He got back on track. He's doing really well. Now they're all serving their communities and just doing these really amazing things. And how one of them owns, I think it's one of the keyboards that My Heart Will Go On, the song from Titanic, was recorded. I mean, like there's all of these things that have touched their lives and have come into their sphere. And as I listened to him, I said, well, this is not a podcast. I think this is a video thing, like either a video series or a web series or something. And so I called the president of the home entertainment show and I said, you have this ticket holder who's come in and he's approached me about this thing. What do you think? And this guy is incredibly forward thinking. He's very cut and dry, no nonsense individual. And he just went, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. And it was that simple. So we started off doing a web series. It's a 7-part web series. And about halfway through it, I turned to my director of photography and I said, we should just turn this into a documentary. Like we should just make a film because there's so much footage and we're editing all this stuff out to fit into these little YouTube videos, right? That are going up every week. And that seems silly. Like it's not serving the purpose of the story. And there's all of these things that we started finding out. And so we thought, okay, well, we'll just make a doc. And neither of us had really made a documentary before. I had worked on music video sets. I have music videos of my own. I know enough, or I thought I knew enough that, oh, it's similar. I've done it. I can, I'll just do it over here. I was wrong. I will proudly admit and humbly admit I was mistaken. Oh my goodness. And so we just many sleepless nights of just banging our heads against the wall going, whatever possessed us to do.
Yeah. Like,
why did we ever think this was going to be a great idea? And turned out to be the greatest idea that we had in a very long time. And so that's how the whole thing started. It was quite by accident and completely organic. Just nothing. Nobody in my circle has ever heard me say, you know what I'd like to do when I'm not touring and recording? I'd love to make documentaries. Nobody's ever heard that because that was not a thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And isn't that amazing that just from him asking that one question that sparked all of this?
It was I'll tell you the thing that really that got to me was he and I are both from New York. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I felt a kinship to him. I think New York expats everywhere agree. Like you could be in the Gobi Desert and you'll meet somebody who's like, yeah, I used to live on Long Island. And whereabouts on Long Island? Oh, Carl Place. Oh my God, my aunt so-and-so. Oh my God, I used to shop at that grocery store, right? And then you're friends for life. And so that was a very unique connection that we had. And it did sort of spur me on a little bit more. And also because he was a really cool guy. And the way that he told these stories with such passion and boldness and humanity and he really wanted to focus on the relationships and how it changed life. And that was the thing that was so compelling that I just thought, yeah, okay, this sounds great. This sounds great. Let's go for it.
Yeah. And so you said that you thought you knew what you were doing, but you quickly realized that you weren't. So I'm curious to know what was the biggest lesson that you learned making this film?
The biggest lesson... This is such a great thing that I stumbled upon when I was, we were preparing for the press campaign, and it was pointed out to me a while ago by my then manager when she saw the final cut of the film. And she said to me, she goes, "Where's the director credit?" And I said, "Oh, well, there isn't one because it's a team effort and we all came in together and we wanted to do this together." And she goes, "Yeah, no, there has to be a director credit." And I was like, "Well, I don't know who directed this because, Nathan did this and Maurice did this and so-and-so did this and so-and-so did this and I did this." And she goes, "Okay, well, tell me what you did. Like, let's go through what everybody did, right? Let's go through that. I said, okay. So we did that. And we knew some of the roles had already been credited appropriately because they were sort of, you grab a camera, you shoot it, you're a camera person. You edit it, you're an editor, right? I mean, it's fairly simple.
Yeah.
But I said to her, well, I did these things. And she said, well, you directed it. And she said, and if you didn't direct it, then you and Nathan directed it together, right? Then you're co-directors, but you directed it. And I said, oh. So I called my very, very good partner in crime at the time, Nathan. And I said, hey man, we need to put a director credit on here. And he was like, no, we already agreed. I mean, it wasn't nasty or anything. He was just like, we already agreed. And we've edited it. It's the copy is sealed, right? It's going out into the world. Like, we all made this commitment together, no director credit for this reason. I said, okay, but I found out X, Y, and Z. And he's like, he's like, I can't. It's already loaded into certain places. And I said, okay, well, we have to have the movie poster made. So let's put it on the poster. So what I learned,
that's smart.
the thing that I learned was twofold. One is that I directed a documentary, which I did not know I did. And number two, I learned what a documentary director actually does.
Right.
And also, to that end, how close that is to what a producer does in the recording studio. And so it's semantically, they're different terms, but they're effectively the same roles. And I didn't know that, because in my mind, like when I was talking to my manager, I said, well, film directors are, they wear big puffy coats and they have a bullhorn and they have headphones on and they sit behind a giant screen with 12 people around them and telling them what to do. And she goes, yeah, that's feature narrative stuff. Like, right, that's Steven Spielberg and like those are the big guys. But documentary directors are in the field they're asking the questions. They're telling the camera people how to position things. They might have the camera themselves. They're overseeing the edits. They're also logistically involved in setting up the interviews and setting up the story arcs and doing all of this. And I just went, oh, I thought I was doing what like a production assistant does, right? I mean, it was so many practical logistical things. And she goes, no. This is, and she said, and you spearheaded the idea of it by talking to this gentleman and taking his stories and then bringing them to life and running them. I said, oh, I didn't know that. Because think about it, to date, then the documentary directors that I had really had access to at that point were like a Ken Burns, right? And then some smaller folks who had done very obscure things where I was like, I don't know what they do exactly, but okay, sure. And so it didn't dawn on me that that's what was happening, that I was sort of being pushed into that world, actually.
That's so funny. I didn't think you were going to say that.
Nobody thinks, when I tell that story, everybody's like, oh my God, I have to go back and rewatch it because you're right. There's no director credit. And I said, yeah. And the director credit on the poster is on the very bottom line. Tiny.
Like the tiniest print. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to enlarge it like 300% to see it. And none of us thought about it. We were so focused on telling the story and living in the moment of the fact that these stories and these experiences had to be captured in almost close to real time as we could get them. And so we sort of overlooked ourselves, which is exactly how it should be. It shouldn't be about us. It should be about the stories that are being told. So, yeah.
And then, once you were 100% in and you knew this was going to be a thing, what were some of the first few steps that you took to get it started? Like, how did you even keep things organized? How did you even start?
We lived a lot on our crew is, we use iPhones. We just happen to. It's not something that we didn't set it that way. But so we were sharing notes back and forth. We lived on text messaging. We lived on notes. We were, I think for any seasoned director who would look at us, they would look at what we were doing at the time and go, oh, that's really cute. Oh, that's so sweet. They're trying to hold it together while the boat is, overloading with water. Oh my goodness, that's so nice. I mean, I had like 6 different notebooks with notes written and everything. And I mean, it was because it was go, 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 right? We would get a call at 8 in the morning and so-and-so is going to be doing this. Come meet us down in San Diego. So-and-so is going to be doing this. Drive to Carlsbad. Somebody's going to be doing this. Go over here. Go over here. And so we keeping control of our notes was very. I want to say it was non-existent, but that's not true. It was just very scattered. And what we did was we really did this guerrilla photojournalism style. I mean, we would shoot for the day. We didn't care. It's not that we didn't care, but it was like, we didn't plan, okay, these are the shots that we need. This is what we need to do. We're going to lose light. So let's put them over here. We grabbed our cameras, we grabbed our gear, and we said, this is about the stories and we have to get the stories. Let's get them. And we'll figure out where to put them later, which is for anybody that's hearing or watching this. That's not the way to do. Don't do it. That's not the way to do it. It's a lot more work. I'm telling you, like, save yourself the trouble. But what we found was through that process when we were getting started, every time there was this nugget of gold or this magical moment, we would all look at each other and we'd sort of get we'd be watching each other behind the cameras and get these chills, and we would know. And then Nathan would usually just in his phone or on a notebook write down the like a little quote or something, the moment that happened. And so then we'd go back and review the footage and the dailies and start cataloging. And that's how we ended up building the pre-edit story arc for it. And I don't know, it was a very haphazard situation to say the least.
That's so funny. And when I was watching the documentary, I was thinking about a really cool experience I had. This was back in 2019. And I went to a seminar by Brad Sundberg, and it's called In the Studio with MJ. And it's literally like, have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he talks about, his work with Michael Jackson, and he has all these special guests. And that was like the coolest thing I've ever gotten to do. Like being in the room with all these like legends, like people that not only worked with Michael, but they worked with Quincy Jones, worked with Stevie Wonder. And it was just like, how am I here right now? Like in the room with these people. And so when I was watching the documentary, it reminded me of that moment and just how impactful music is, and how legendary that was, that I was in the room, and to hear their experiences like that, and to know that he has the show going and all these people that are still here that can still tell those stories of what they did back in the day, because once they're gone, then we don't have that anymore. And so that's kind of what this documentary reminded me of. And I'm saying all that to say that music is very important to me. So I'm curious to know what your personal relationship with is music, and has that changed since doing the documentary?
Oh, that is a question and a half. I was not expecting that. Okay. My relationship to music is lifelong, in that I started playing when I was really young. I started playing when I was about 2. And apparently, I mean, I don't know this because I was in diapers or whatever, but people tell me that I was playing recognizable, full songs. And so my whole life has been spent in the music industry. First as a classical concert pianist, and then sort of convincing, I don't want to say convincing my parents, because that's the wrong terminology, but sort of bamboozling my parents into letting me go into popular music and do things like tour in a rock band, and then be the leader of a rock band, and then become a solo artist, and then get into TV and film scoring. And it's funny because my parents would always say to me, you're so theatrical, you're so dramatic, you should really do film and TV scores. And I would poo-poo that. I said, I don't want to do that. I want to be on stage. I want to be performing. I want to be touring. I'm on the road. And my mother used to get very affected by that. She would get very upset. My father would he was much more stoic, and he'd sit back and go, okay, well, sort of like, we'll see. Like, just wait. It'll happen. It'll find you.
Yeah.
And goodness forbid that I should ever admit publicly that my parents were right. but to their credit, they saw something in me that I was not aware of. And my relationship with music has changed tremendously since I started really focusing more on marrying it with motion picture. So not just music video stuff, but film and TV scoring, and then directing, and then producing motion pictures and series and things like that. And it's changed the way, once I unified the two together inside myself, it's changed the way that I write songs, and it's changed the way that I make movies simultaneously, equally and simultaneously. And it's a bit confusing because I've lived my whole life doing one thing, and being, I guess, pretty good at one thing, because I was making making money doing it, being on the road and putting out albums. But
Yeah.
it's reawakened something, or awakened something brand new in me. And I think when you live so many years just doing one thing, you become a creature of habit without knowing it. And even though you feel blessed and you feel lucky, and you feel you're in a very special space, you don't actually realize, oh, but your every day is normal to you, right, relative to your life. And then so when something like documentaries and motion picture production gets thrown at you, you're like, oh, there's a whole other humongous world out there that I can be part of, and I can be of service to, and I can offer support in. And once you sort of accept that's happening, it changes the way that you look at the life that you knew, right? And so in that respect, it's changed me as a songwriter. It's changed me as a producer. It's certainly, on the flip side, it's changed me as a director too, because now I look at shots differently, and I sit down with our team and I go, well, the first thing I do is I want music here, 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 here. And they're like, music gets added at the end. And I went, not at my company, it doesn't.
Right.
Music,
Let 'em know.
we're going back, we're going to go backwards, because historically, like, a lot of, especially independent filmmakers, try to use either royalty-free music, or they try to grab a composer at the end and then pay them some cheap little amount of money or whatever, and music is the afterthought. I was like, oh no, you got to start there and work backwards.
Oh,
And
I like that.
so people are learning real fast, like, if they're going to work with me, music's going to be at the top of the list. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting to have all these new thought patterns, and really new emotions too. Like, these are things that I have not I've not experienced before. So
Yeah, that's a great answer. And so with film scoring, I guess, what type of mindset do you go into when you're doing that compared to when you're doing your own music?
well, when I'm doing my own music, I write what I feel. I feel what I write. I write to get something out of me, right? I write what I want to say. I write, and if it makes me happy, then I'm good with it. Film scoring is very much a selfless thing, because you must serve the piece that's in front of you. And the other thing with film scoring is we'll often get what they call a work print. So they'll send us, right, the producers or the director or music supervisors, whomever, will send you scenes of the film, or the whole film, or the series, or whatever, with not even temporary music in it, no special effects, no ADR, nothing. And so you're often faced with sort of a crossroads, or a fork in the road, depending on how you're looking at it, because you know that whatever you write to that specific passage of film, the emotions can go one way, or another way, or another way, or another way. And so
Yeah.
it's sort of like standing in front of a buffet line going, all right, what do I want? Do I want
Right.
salad? Do I want
I like
steak? Do I
that.
want pasta? Like, where am I going with this? Right. And
Mhm.
so you have to pick the palette very carefully. And the other thing is, you end up getting notes a lot of times from people who are not in the music department, that will say things that are subjective, right? Make it sound more upbeat. Well, upbeat can mean anything. It can mean loud, it can mean fast, it can mean happy, but it could also mean creepy and violent, right? Like, there has to be surrounding context around it. So it's a very different process to write for motion picture than it is to write an album. And lastly, all my songs have words. They have lyrics to them because I sing. And in motion picture, obviously, unless I'm writing a theme song or the closing credit song or whatever, there's no words. So I'm stuck, not stuck, but I'm limited in that sense. And I have to reallocate my thoughts and my process to sort of, how do I do this with various instruments as opposed to, with words.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the documentary, I liked how they brought up like, like vinyls and CDs and things like that. And I wanted to ask you like what your opinion is. Why do you think, I mean, I guess you could say that because trends always recycle, but why do you think, especially the younger generation, why they're so captivated by vinyl now and why so many people are collecting vinyls and buying turntables? Like it's just become this huge thing now.
Yeah, I think, I think first of all, every generation is into vintage stuff, right? There's always this vintage thing. Like when I was growing up, I was really into I Love Lucy and the Dick Van Dyke Show and stuff like that. And so I was really into black and white comedies from the 50s and the 40s. And that was my sort of throwback thing. And so I think part of it is that younger generations always look back and say, that's cool. We should keep that going because that's really neat, right? Because they have a different reference point for it than I think than we had growing up with vinyl just being a new thing in that sense. But the other thing that I'm noticing more and more and more, which I think is really lovely, is that it's offsetting the trend of this 24/7, 365 instant social media, gimme, 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 now, instant thing where you can order anything by the touch of a button. And like on Amazon, although we're part of the Amazon Prime family, but you can order it and it'll be at your door by 3:00 that afternoon, right? That's as close to instant as you can get it right now in 2024. But with things like vinyl and CDs, there's a ceremony to it, right? You have to pick out the vinyl, take it out, put it on, tone arm goes down, right? Like it's a whole thing that happens. And it's something that forces you to listen to music in the foreground rather than the background. Because I think a lot of folks throw on a pair of earbuds, right, AirPods, whatever it may be, jam their phone in their pocket and they go running, they go walk the dog, they go to the grocery store, they are doing homework, whatever it may be. They're drowning their parents out, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they're scrolling on their phone or they're chatting to somebody or whatever it is, and music's in the background. But when you sit down and you listen to vinyl or you put a CD in or whatever, you are there for the music because you have a part to play in it. Because once that side A of the record is done, all you're gonna hear is as the as the needles at the center of the right. You have to get up off the couch or you have to go into the other room and flip it over and do it again. So it forces you to participate. And with that comes this idea of like, oh man, I got new vinyl. Everybody come over to my house and check out my vinyl, or let me bring the vinyl to your house and we'll listen to it together. There's a very social, connective aspect to it that doesn't exist when you jam earbuds in and you're listening to your own music, like your own playlist. And I think that's one of the reasons why is because we are living in an increasingly virtual world, and vinyl and physical media allows people to have human connectivity in real time.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And I always hear people say too, like, not even just with music, but with film, they're just like, you guys need to buy DVDs and VHS tapes. Cause what if all this stuff online disappears? We won't have it,
Oh
because
yeah.
we're just relying on what's online. But once if that's gone, then we're out of movies and music. So I know a lot of people like advocate for buying like physical media again. And I'm curious too if CDs are gonna make a comeback.
I think CDs are making a comeback. CDs are now where vinyl was like 10 or 15 years ago, where it was like just burgeoning underground. In the audiophile and hi-fi community, CDs are still considered definitely one of the leading forms of physical media, especially something called SACD, which is a special type of CD, which is higher resolution.
Mhm.
But regardless, like if you go to, oh, help me, there is a records, Zia Records here
Oh,
in
I don't think
town.
I've been there.
Okay, they have a few Zia Records around Vegas. You should go because it's really cool.
Okay.
The main,
We
like,
should go. I'll go with you.
yes, yes, absolutely. All the aisles in the middle are vinyl, but then around the perimeter is just CDs as far as the eye can see from floor. I mean, stacked up from floor to ceiling. Used CDs, new
Oh,
CDs, you
wow.
name it. They collectibles, they have it. And so people, I think CDs do have their place as well. And there are plenty of people, if you ever meet somebody who's a giant compact disc junkie, they're going to let you know real fast. So I think they're probably going to be more popular in the next 3 to 5 years than they have been. But they're on the rise again too.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I miss that. I used to buy CDs so much when I was younger and just like getting the lyric booklet and getting the
Yeah.
poster in there and everything. Like you said, it's like an experience. So having all
Yes.
that again would be like that would be so cool to see that come back.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's another reason why physical media is so important, is because younger people today are like Spotify and go see the thing, and then there's the visualizer, and then some lyrics pop up, and that's great, but you don't know who played on the album, you don't know who produced it, you don't know who mixed it, you don't know where it was recorded. The story behind all of this is not there for you, right?
Mhm.
For a hot minute on iTunes, you could they would release the PDF booklets, and then iTunes was like,
They're like, let's scrap that.
like scrap it, whatever, because you could buy the album without the PDF booklet and it was like $9.99, and then with the PDF booklet it was like $17, and nobody wanted to
Oh,
spend that
okay.
money because you couldn't hold it in your hand. Right? You couldn't hold it in your hand, but you buy vinyl, you buy CD, to your point, you get like a nice fold out booklet or a poster or all this cool stuff. And that's, people want that. It's
Yeah.
valuable. It means something to them. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, that's very true. And then do you have any current projects that you're working on that you could talk about?
Oh my gosh, I have so many.
Yeah, let's go
I
down
have
the list.
I have so many. Well, film stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Um,
anything, film and music.
well, music is fairly simple, which is that there's a new album in the works, and I'm here actually demoing stuff for that. Uh, if I can get rid of, I've had this horrible cough for the last 3 weeks. So I'm trying to get rid of it. So once that's gone, I'll be able to sing through the demos, and then we can go into the studio and do what we have to do. But film wise, yeah, I don't even know where to start. I'm directing a documentary. The first trailer just came out, actually. It's called Code Stroke. And this is a documentary that chronicles the stories of young stroke survivors.
Mhm.
I'm a 2-time stroke survivor. I had a TIA and then a fairly massive stroke that resulted in a heart procedure. And so my partner in the production, Diane Musselman, who is just a phenomenal producer, and she's had almost 30 years of speech pathology with a focus on stroke survivor recovery. We're finding out that young strokes are on the rise, and there's no resources for them, really. Nobody's talking about it. They don't really understand what's going on and why it's happening. And so we thought, this is an opportunity for us to delve into it and bring it forward. So we're working on that. I have another documentary coming out called That Andrew Jones, which is about one of the foremost award-winning, legendary loudspeaker designers in the hi-fi world. So if people watch The Human Side and they like it, they'll know more likely they will know who Andrew Jones is and what his story is. And so we're telling the story of him as a human being, not just about as a loudspeaker designer. I have a series. Oh, this is fun. I have a series that I'm working on with our team that's based on an award-winning mystery novel book series by an author named James Church. And the first book is called A Corpse in the Choreo. It's part of the Inspector O mystery series. It's about a North Korean police officer that uncovers these a series of murders that are, well, let's just say that the way that they got written up in the report is not how they happened. And so we've been entrusted to tell that story and bring that to the screen. So we're working on that. Trying to think. Oh, I have a documentary called Mothers that's in pre-production right now, which is about, all these documentaries are so I mean, they're serious because they have to be serious, but about mothers, the especially the United States court system, the family court system, and the matrimonial system, about how now there's this trend to forcibly separate mothers from their children in custody battles and give custody to the abusers, even when conclusive evidence and proof are brought to the court. They still separate the moms and are involved in a tremendous amount of maternal deprivation. And so that's not an easy story to tell, but it's one that is very necessary, especially for the sake of the kids and child welfare, and meaning the welfare of the child, right?
Yeah.
And also for the health of the mom too, and the fact that the justice system needs to sort of pick up their socks and rethink this whole the whole way that they're going about this. So there's a number of very serious, heavy-hitting things that we have coming up. Plus, we've got, some other properties. We're doing it's not a documentary, but it's a film about survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, as well as through fictionalized stories, but that are based on true events. Tend to do a lot of things that are unsexy, right? Unglamorous, but I think very necessary. And those are the stories that, I don't know, they resonate with me a lot. I'm like, why are these things not on the news? So, okay,
Yeah.
we'll be the news. We'll tell it, fine. We'll tell it then. We'll get it out there.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're doing a lot.
We're doing a lot. And in the middle of this, we have the feature version of The Human Side that's in production as well. So there's a 90-minute version that's coming out.
Okay.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah.
And then is that the version that's going to be on Amazon Prime, or it's this version that's already out?
This version is on Amazon Prime. We certainly would welcome them to take the feature version as well. Hint, hint, Amazon, right? But The Human Side, the short documentary, is available now on Amazon Prime. Correct.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll be speaking with you soon.
Sounds good. Happy Sunday.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.